In the Gold Coast area, the ones that we sell pretty quickly and easily are Pinnacle, 21 East Huron, 55 East Erie, still in high demand. Fordham went through a little bit of a glitch coming back now. They had some problems with the facade of the building, so that had to be addressed, and there was a special assessment. But now it's like a new building, so it's quite lovely. 340 on the Park is pretty much in demand, pretty easy to represent. Heritage is high value, same developer as Legacy, a little bit more prime location being further north. Maybe not as quite high in finishes originally, but some people have done very nice work and beautiful amenities. And even a few years past 5, you're looking at some of the projects over by the river, 415 and 445 East North Water. Those sell pretty quickly on resale, and 600 Lakeshore also.
Yeah.
Right. I would say those are the ones that probably move pretty quickly.
All right.
Priced right. Now the problem with assessments, the older buildings tend to be a little bit higher because they need to build up their reserves, whereas the newer buildings are probably still on builder warranty, at least for the next 5 years for the bigger items. So then there's always the question, and by then, of course, you're dealing with the board, so there's always the question before the board, do we raise our assessments, build up our reserves, or do we wait and do a special assessment? And this is a critical question that comes before boards, and you'll get totally different answers from totally different boards. So how do you really decide? I think the most important thing is to look at the when you're interested in a building, look at whatever has been going on for the last 6 months. Look at the minutes from the meetings, and you'll see there what's going on. Most buildings, I would say, tend to try to keep up with their assessments. But if you need like at Water Tower, they needed a $15 million plumbing issue fixed. No one has $15 million in reserves, so that was a special assessment. It's their only special assessment, and it's likely to be the only for a long time because they are very conservative, and they do have almost $3 million in reserves. Yeah. So it's just something to look at. It's part of the picture. Like anything else, it's better to be down to 2 or 3 choices rather than just one, and then maybe let your mind lead your heart a little bit for that final choice. Be a little practical.
All right. What do you recommend to somebody who says, who's moving into a high-rise for the first time in terms of participating in and paying attention to what's going on with the condo association, things like that, taking an active role without taking too active, or still being able to live your own life and not having to pay too much attention to all that sort of stuff.
Right. Well, it's like being in a community, really. If you're in a building, this building, for instance, has 400 and some residential condominiums. So that's the size of a small township. So I think if you look at it that way and you decide, if you're the kind of person that does want to be involved in the community, it's a good thing. Because it's like jury selection. You don't want only not busy people to show up on juries, right?
Sure.
Right. So you want somebody with a certain amount of information. And I think it's a good idea if people who are accountants and lawyers and have information are on the board. And those of us who represent these buildings very specifically, we actually get to know which buildings are better managed and have really strong boards. So it does make a difference. But again, it's not science, more of an art kind of question, and so it goes back to why don't you take a look at those minutes, and you're going to see if they're spending the whole time talking about silly things or if they're actually focusing on some other. One building I would point out, for instance, just as an example of a very well-managed building, would be 55 Erie. They've really kept their assessments low over a period of 6 years, and they've done it the best of all possible ways, not by cutting back on service, but by really watching the budget. So, and you'll see other buildings that have done the opposite. So it's something you should know about. And in the city here, different from the suburbs, when we do showings, the listing agent meets the selling agent on site. Whereas if you have a listing in Lake Forest, it's likely to be by key. And then one of the reasons we do it is that listing agent should really know the details of that building.
Yeah.
That's important.
Have there been any common types of amenities that can be sort of assessment sucks, things that end up taking a lot of maintenance and repair and things that are going to end up kind of, adding on to cost in the long run that you should be aware of, or at least know going in this is something that's going to require a lot of upkeep.
Right. Well, that depends on the age of the building.
Mm-hmm.
If you buy a building that was built in the 70s or 80s, it's nice that a lot of them had balconies, but watch out, because a lot of those balconies needed to be replaced or rebuilt.
Okay.
Okay? However, if you buy a building in 2008, 2009, 2010, it's likely to not be that big a negative if there's a balcony. They probably were constructed with today's materials and a little bit more secured in. So that really depends. Same thing with swimming pools. I know there's this rumor that, why didn't 600 Lakeshore do swimming pools? Why isn't there Ritz-Carlton? Oh, it's the upkeep. Well, I think that's a little silly because today's new swimming pools do not take the same kind of upkeep as the pools that were put in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it really is almost an age-dependent question.
Okay.
Yeah.